So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the Unlicensed Counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor, and as always, so grateful to be here on a toasty, roasty, toasty Scottsdale, Arizona summer day. Wouldn't want it any other way. Got a fun, interesting little topic to dive into today. I think this is one that probably everybody, I don't know, maybe everybody in the world has dealt with at some point. And that is moving on, and moving on specifically from a past relationship, right? It is challenging. Either you got broken up with, you broke up with, it could be divorce, whatever it is. We've all had that person that when you split, it just was hard. And so since we've all done that, what are some healthy ways to do that? Why it's hard to do that? You know, I want to cover some of the basics on some of these topics and then specifically talk about the wrong way to do this as well, too, because I think a lot of us probably default to some of these wrong ways of trying to move on from people, and it kind of leads to some unhealthy habits. So, you know, I've had some of the thoughts. Like I always say, some of these things go on in my own life. This one certainly has been a topic that I've had to deal with. I've been very open and straightforward about the fact that, you know, I got divorced, 2 years ago, and kind of what that looked like in my life. And, you know, as you start to get a little time and distance away from some of these things, you get more clarity around some of these ideas. And I like to think that I've done some healthy kind of coping and counseling to kind of help process this. I want to take some of that and share it back out to everybody in the world. Because, again, I think everybody in the history of the world has probably loved and lost or broken up with or been cheated on or had to move on in one way, shape, or form. So I thought that'd be an interesting little topic that we should all probably put our mind around for a few minutes. But before we do that, I want to start by saying a thank you to our sponsor, ShareTech. This is the industry-leading at-home drug and alcohol screen. Go to betterdrugtest.com. If you need to pick up an at-home drug or alcohol test, ShareTech is the test that you need to be using. So again, go to betterdrugtest.com. You've heard me talk about it before. It's the one that I personally use and the one I recommend out to all of our listeners as well, too. And a big thanks to ShareTech for always being a sponsor from us from day one as well, too. Next thing I like to plug is the Youth Drug Abuse Prevention work. This is the nonprofit work that I actually co-founded an organization with, something I'm very passionate about. As I always say, there's only one way to prevent drug and alcohol abuse, and that is to never start. Visit thestopstartshere.org. Give us a follow at Hard Stop Official on all the usual social media channels. You can find us. We're just pushing out some new content as we speak. We're actually talking to some of the other co-founders about rolling out a podcast as well, too. The feedback that we're getting around this from parents is we need more education. We need more tools on how to do this, right? We got the school year getting ready to start. Give us a follow at a Hard Stop Official, but check us out at thestopstartshere.org. And last shameless plug for the Unlicensed Counselor as well, too. Give me a follow, all the usual social channels. Go to YouTube. I spend a lot of time on Instagram, and I post a lot of the clips from the show. If you don't have time for the whole show, you can find a lot of the clips on the YouTube channel and on Instagram as well, too. I am putting together a little speaking tour that I'm going to be working on as well, too, and been doing a little more writing on the book. Man, you get these goals, and we've talked about goals on this show and kind of getting this thing done, and it's work. It is work. You know, you've got all the ideas, but sitting down, time, blocking out all the other things that are going on in your life and really nailing this book out. A labor of love, as they say, but hopefully we'll be bringing that to you very shortly as well, too. So let's talk about moving on, right? So let's start with why moving on from past relationships is healthy, but why is it so dang hard to do, right? Like, it just hurts. Right? Why is that? So let's start with why it's healthy. So the number one thing I can think of is really emotional growth. So that moving on allows for personal and emotional growth. It helps individuals learn from past experiences, understand their needs better, and improve future relationships. And that's something that again, I always reference in my own personal life that I've really taken from this last relationship. It's not that it was so terrible or anything like that. It was just two people that grew apart. And by the time we got together to try and save it, we were just a little bit too far gone. But the work that I've put in on this to hopefully get ready for the next relationship is kind of what has me excited for the future. I don't think I ever really put in the time when you either break up or boyfriend or girlfriend and you date and you just kind of go your own ways. I don't think I ever invested the time into the emotional growth, kind of preparing for the next relationship like I have. Again, not that I'm like trying to run into the next relationship or something like that, but it's really kind of like a debrief, right? You know, I don't want to call it an autopsy. That sounds a little bit morbid, but you know, you're looking at things as they've kind of happened and transpired and going, what did I do wrong? What did she do wrong? What could I have done better? And how do I get ready? And I do think that's a sign of maturity and that emotional growth that really can, hopefully will, fingers crossed, set me up for better success in the future as well, too. Does that mean it's easy to do? Oh, hell no. And again, this is me 2 years plus. I mean, I've had this idea to do this episode for quite some time, but I just don't think I was quite emotionally ready for all this as well, too. And again, not like I've nailed it here, but I certainly have had some time and perspective to look back on it and go, okay, I think it's time to share at least some of this podcaster's thoughts on exactly some of these things as well, too. The next thing on why it's healthy is the mental health side of this, right? So letting go of past relationships can reduce stress, can reduce anxiety, it can reduce depression, and it clears kind of the emotional clutter, and that can help make room for positive thoughts and positive feelings as you kind of. And I am a big believer in the relationship thing that time and distance does heal all these wounds. I also put a caveat on there saying as long as you're, not developing some terrible habits and jumping into drugs or alcohol or, rebounding and casual sex with other people and things like that. If you are doing the right things and kind of taking healthy steps post-relationship, I think this making room for positive thoughts and feeling and the reduction in anxiety and stress and all of those other things is a super important step as to why it can be healthy in improving your mental health. But only if you're doing and taking the kind of healthier steps to improve that, right? So next thing on why it's healthy for kind of on the moving on perspective is this idea of self-discovery, right? The process encourages self-discovery and self-improvement, kind of exactly what I'm just talking about, all of these things as well, too. So, helping individuals understand their own values, desires, and goals. As I look to the future, and hopefully I'll find the right person, and I've done the online dating thing, I've been set up with friends, you meet people at the gym, all these types of things. What I've really done is kind of made an internal checklist of things that are, non-negotiable for me. And I'm really talking not so much what I used to be more focused on the looks and the partying and all that fun stuff, because a lot of my relationships were when I was drinking and using drugs. So I've really had to kind of reassess everything. Obviously, I'm about 10 years sober now, just a little short. I'm not questioning that, by the way. I'm just not quite to the 10-year mark. Just want to make sure I clarify that so nobody thinks anything happened along the way. But I've kind of reassessed the things that I'm looking for, and they're much more on the values that person have. Yes, do I want you to be aesthetically cute and kind of fit into those things? Absolutely, I think those things are important. But, what type of person are you? A lot of the dating pool that I'm in now may or may not have children. So it's like, what type of mother are you? Those types of things. I'm looking at things a little bit differently, and I'm discovering, the things that are important to me as I'm, again, post-relationship and now trying to think about what it is that I would want in the next relationship going forward and really being more clear. And it sounds stupid to be 45 and now just kind of setting these things out, but in your early 20s, you're just kind of out, you're drinking, you're partying, you're having a good time. Again, I'm sitting over here a mile from Old Town Scottsdale where you can meet, 1,000 girls in a single weekend, no problem. And things kind of came and whatever floated across your plate, whoever you were talking to when the lights came on at the bar, things just kind of happened that way. And the term that I hear nowadays that a lot of the younger folks are saying, you find yourselves in these situationships. And I definitely found myself in situationships, and now it's like, okay, I've got a daughter, I've got different things that are important to me in my life. I'm not looking for a situationship, right? I'm looking for a person that's an actual match for me, because you know what I don't want to do is go through another divorce in my life. I think 3 times and you're out as far as and I'm on number 2. So let's really try and get this thing right. So the next reason why moving on is healthy, new opportunities. So moving on opens up new opportunities for relationships, friendships, personal achievements. I'll take this list even farther. I mean, fitness, hobbies, extra time, things that you always wanted to do, but you just never quite had the time because for whatever reason you were kind of in this relationship and maybe they weren't supportive, maybe they were, maybe they didn't like some of the things that you're doing. Whatever it is, you've now got the opportunity with a clean slate. You get to start over, you get to wipe the slate clean, and you get to decide the next steps and what your future looks like. And that's for your own life, who you're dating, and all these types of things. So those are just some of the reasons why it's healthy to kind of move on and start to move on. Doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, but if you can start to think about these things, and maybe you're one of those folks you just got broken up with, maybe you're just about to break up with somebody. I mean, that stuff's hard. I don't wish it upon anybody. It's challenging, but these are some of the things and ways that are hopefully you can think about as you're going through it to help you start to get into that next direction. I would also say go easy on yourself. Give yourself a little bit of time as you kind of go through some of these breakups, whether, again, you're doing the breaking or if someone's breaking up with you. But let's talk about why it's hard. I think we all know that it just hurts. It makes you sad. Sometimes I've seen a lot of, I'll just speak to the guys that are out there. Some guys take it really tough and, are very emotional and like deep, and they put on the music and they get sad and all these things. And some of the other guys just kind of bounce right back, or some of the other guys just kind of develop some other habits around drinking or drugs or girls or hopping around and, whatever it is. But it's hard when you go through a breakup, no matter what side it is. And I think the number one reason why it's hard is just that emotional attachment that you have. Those deep emotional bonds make it difficult to detach from someone who was once a significant part of your life. It's just that plain and simple. I mean, you went through things together. You shared a life. You moved in together. You took trips together. You shared things with that person that maybe you've never shared with anyone else before. I mean, that's not insignificant. And it's not something that you do casually with a lot of people, or at least I don't think most people do. So that emotional attachment and now healing from that emotional attachment, that's really challenging stuff. So go easy on yourself. It's hard. Everybody experiences that. But then we'll get to kind of the healthy ways to move on past this. But let's just discuss a little bit more why exactly it's hard. The next thing on the list is it's fear of the unknown, right? You don't know. Uncertainty about the future and the fear of being alone can make it hard to move on. Look, I got divorced at 43. I now have a daughter for the first time. And it's like, oh my God, like what? I didn't anticipate this. Honestly, none of this it was like I'm a single dad now. I'm starting over again. Who am I dating? Where do I go? Like, I'm still kind of shook. And I did the filing from the divorce in this relationship. And it's like, I'm still shook up, and it was really hard and challenging and flustering of the mind and the roller coaster of thoughts and feelings. I'm depressed, I'm angry, I'm sad, It's like, whew, boy, there's a lot of things to process as you do this. And just that fear of the unknown. What is it going to look like? Am I going to be single the rest of my life? I don't know. Who am I going to be dating now? I mean, I don't know what any of that looks like. I don't drink or go out to the bars anymore. Where am I meeting people? Am I now just going on the apps? It's like, oh my gosh, that just seems overwhelming and daunting. So I get it. The fear of the unknown is really why it can be hard to move on. Now, the next thing is this idea of your comfort zone. So people often find comfort in the familiar, right? I'm a big fan of routines and within the relationships. Even if they are no longer healthy, you still kind of just know where you are at in these things, and you just find that comfort in that routine that we have, that safety, kind of like this little nest. And now you're jumping out of that, or you're throwing everything away, and you're just going to say, what the heck? I'm now out of my comfort zone, and now everything is hard, right? Everything is hard. Now I've got, maybe you were splitting finances or rent and different things like that. I mean, all of these things are now new and challenging, and it's scary. It's scary. And underneath that scared is just that fear, right? There's just that fear that kind of sits there, and you're just like, oh boy, what am I going to do now? And I get that. Now, the next one, and this is one that it's a little vulnerable to even say, but for a while, these thoughts run through your head, whether it's rational or not. It's that hope for reconciliation, right? Again, I don't say that I'm the one who filed for divorce to take any type of position or anything, but it's to say the fact that even as the person who did that, you still second guess all of these decisions that you made. And you hold on to almost this hope that it can be revived or improved, and it can prevent that closure that really needs to happen. And again, guilty as charged, and it's because it hurts. You're just not sure. You feel like you could kind of fix it, or you've got this new perspective on these things. All of these ideas are kind of flooding through your head. And I don't regret what I did, and I did go through this quite a bit, but my ex also jumped into a relationship right away, which helped close the door on kind of any reconciliation thoughts as well too. But even with all of that going on, it still kind of rushes through your brain because it's just flooded with all these emotions, and you're trying to make heads or tails of it. But it's really hard, and it's hard because you're just got this thing that once I move on, then it's over. Like the closure, it's finished. We're not going back. And there's somehow, some way that if you leave the door cracked a little in your mind that maybe, just maybe she'll come back, or I'll come back, or things will change, or she'll see I change, or she changed, or something like that, But really that door needs to be closed. When and if people get back together, so be it. I'm no one to judge on how those things go, but why it's hard is when you got that little twinkle of reconciliation in your brain. I know that can really kind of prolong the healing process. I'm speaking from experience there. And again, my situation was just like, well, that's not going to happen. She's dating someone else. But it's like you still get these weird things in your head that you just kind of hope. And you hope. And it's like, oh, man, that's healthy. I needed to close that door and start to move on. Because as soon as you really close that door in your mind and it is closed, that's when you can really start to get forward. When you got one leg in and one leg in the other side, kind of hoping, that makes progress really hard. So, all right. Next thing I want to talk about, and these are more of the ways I was formerly much more comfortable with, the wrong ways to move on or the unhealthy ways to move on. Basically, you just follow me around Old Town Scottsdale, for a couple months post-divorce or post-breakup in a relationship, and you can see exactly what not to do. But since I do not participate in any of those old behaviors, I'll simply list them out for you on the podcast here today. But the number one thing to do is just suppressing your emotions, right? Avoiding or ignoring feelings that can lead to unresolved emotional issues and mental health problems. Don't stick that stuff down. We're guys, I'm speaking to guys more. I mean, I think, by nature, women are much more expressive and supportive and understanding of the emotions. But as guys, how you doing? I'm fine. You just went through a divorce and you lost your house and you got your custody 50-50 with your ex-wife. I'm fine. Fine, right? Really? And I'm sure a lot of you have heard what FINE stands for. It's F, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. We try and keep this show clean here, but if not, Google it. That'll help you. That'll help tell you exactly what's going on, right? Look, it's okay to express that you're sad. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm everything all at once. I felt that feeling a lot. It's just mad at myself, mad at her, mad at everything else. And really, again, that underlying thing is just I'm scared. That thing, I'm scared underneath. I don't know what's going on. Maybe I made the complete wrong decision. And it's okay to share that. I would not suggest, going out to Old Town with your buddies and doing a bunch of shots and talking about this, but under the right ways and circumstances, maybe with your counselor, maybe your friend, maybe with your clergy, whatever it is, I think it's a healthy thing to do and needs to be done in order to really help move you forward throughout this process. But suppressing would be a wrong way to do it. Next thing, the old rebound, right? The old rebound. Jumping into a new relationship too quickly can fill the void to prevent proper healing and leading to further complications. And then I would also say stalling your forward progress and stalling your healing process as well, too. This is something that I was a habitual rebounder in the past. I made a significant effort when I post-divorce this time to not do that because I knew me enough. I knew me well enough to go, I know what you're going to do. You're going to jump into something and use sex as a way to kind of coast through this because you don't drink, you don't use drugs. You can use sex to kind of make yourself feel good and kind of get through this without actually dealing with the hard, crappy stuff that's sitting under there that really needs to be pulled up and talked about and discussed so that you can properly move on. And rebounding is just the ultimate way to do that. And people said, do guys do it more? Do girls do it more? I don't know, and I don't care. It's just not the right way to do that. And that's not even me taking shots at my ex or anything like that. You do what you do, but there are certain patterns, and I've seen people who habitually do this. And you know what's interesting, when I see those people a year later and they still don't feel maybe, obviously those relationships rarely ever kind of work out. That rebound one, right, doesn't really tend to work out for the most part. And then I'll see those people a year later, 18 months later, 2 months later, and you could still feel it. You can almost feel that they haven't processed it, that they're still kind of stuck in that place that they were right when that happened, because it's because they haven't processed that stuff. It's because they've been sitting there just going, I'm just going to throw my emotions into this next person as a way to not feel and not have to deal with that stuff. Totally normal, not very healthy. So if you are a rebounder, or maybe you're getting ready to go through that divorce or breakup, think that the rebound approach isn't necessarily going to be the one that helps you long term. May help you short term, but it's not going to help you long term. And here's one that just needs to be said as well too, is that stalking and obsessing, right? Continuously checking the ex-partner's social media or trying to stay involved in their life can prolong that healing process. I would say it doesn't even let you start the healing process. Delete that person from your social media, right? I changed my ex-wife's name back to her maiden name. I mean, I created the separation both mentally. I don't have all of the images and things. I mean, maybe it's a picture of her and her mom at the house and stuff like that. But get rid of the social media and do whatever you have to do to not fall into this pattern of obsessing. And certainly, obviously, not on the stalking front as well, too. And I that was not something I ever had, but man, the stories that you hear about people and the stalkers and things, that is super scary stuff. And if that's going on in your world, please find some legal advice, or even talk to the police or whatever it needs to be done. That stuff gets serious and can escalate very quickly. I'm more talking about just the obsessing. I understand the obsession of the mind of, like, you've just broken up with her, or you've now broken, and maybe they're dating somebody else, and it's like those thoughts running through your head. It's super unhealthy. I think it's actually a fairly normal early on. You've got to find a way to make sure that you can process that and process that healthy. It was one of the reasons why I got super involved in my gym, why I really enjoy the yoga. It takes my mind away from spinning and focusing on those things that were really kind of disruptive, makes you sad, angry, frustrated thoughts. Find outlets to do something that gets your mind and pulls it away from that. And then just know and trust that in time and some distance, those things will gradually slow down. But understand that there will be a time and a period where your mind probably will spin on those things, and you've got to find a way. Again, use a gym, use exercise, use something else healthy, journal, I don't care, whatever it is, to kind of keep you from spinning and going down in those dark places as well, too. And the next thing I think is pretty obvious as well, too, and it is the substance abuse, and that's drugs or drinking. The unhealthiest way that you can do this, the least coping way to do this, is to just numb yourself out through the bottle, through the drugs, and just try and pretend like it didn't happen. It's not going to work. It won't let you properly heal. And what it'll also do is set you up for failure on your next relationship, because you didn't do the work to figure this damn thing out, because you're numb, because you're just getting high, just because you're getting blackout drunk every night. And by the way, if you're getting blackout drunk every night, you're probably suppressing your emotions. You're probably obsessing more. All these other things are probably coming into play more because you're just kind of out of control. You're not able to kind of really manage yourself very well. So turning to alcohol and drugs, that's a harmful coping mechanism. And it can lead to further addiction as well, too, which can then worsen your emotional distress in the emotional situation. So it's this compounding kind of spiral thing as well, too. When you start adding in the booze and the drugs, all of these other things are going to come into play even more so, including the next one on my list is that blame or that self-pity. So constantly blaming the ex-partner, oh, she did this or he did that, and are indulging in the self-pity or the woe is me. It's going to stop any type of personal growth that you may be able to make if you're just constantly pointing the finger, right? Constantly pointing the finger at the other person. Again, I did that for a little bit as well, until you're just like, okay, she did what she did, I did what I did, it's 6 months out, what do I need to do for me, right? Like nothing's going to change over there. I'm not in control of anything that happens over there. So let's start focusing on the things that I control. Let's stop doing the woe is me. Let's stop blaming her, and let's just start to look forward instead of constantly looking in that rearview mirror, right? It's hard, takes practice, but if you can't do that, you're going to really start to move yourself forward a lot faster. And the last thing on kind of my list of wrong ways to do this is isolating. If you start cutting off your friends and family, you're not doing the social activities that you used to do, this can increase those feelings of loneliness, the depression. It's not going to help you move forward. This is the best way to do it is the exact opposite, is get around your friends now. Lean on your family members. Find new friends. Get involved in hobbies or a running club or whatever it is. Surround yourself with some good people so that you're not really kind of retracting into this. When you start to isolate, that's when, the bottle becomes a good idea. That's when sleeping around or the drugs or whatever starts to feel like a good idea as well to kind of make you feel better. Try and prevent just the isolation. I know that there's those nights when you're laying in bed and your mind's just going, that's just going to happen. Find ways to do that. Maybe use prayer, maybe use meditation. Just find ways to kind of surround yourself and try and prevent your mind from going down those too dark of places. Okay, so we've talked about, all the kind of wrong and unhealthy ways to do this. Let's talk about as we kind of round out the show here, a plan for a healthy way to kind of move on as well too. And the number one thing to kind of move on in a healthy way is acceptance, acknowledgement. Accept that the relationship has ended and acknowledge your emotions. Pretty straightforward, but very hard to do. Understand that it's normal to grieve and feel sad and feel angry and feel confused. Allow yourself to do that. In AA, we talk about acceptance all the time, and I think that it has a direct parallel here. Acceptance is the answer. And I'm going to repeat that again. Accept that the relationship has ended and acknowledge your emotions. They're going to be all over the board, and that's okay for a little while. If you're a year out and you're still spinning on those things, we may need to take some kind of professional help to try and do that. But really understand and accept that these things have changed and this is your new reality, right? And if you have to say that to yourself until you believe it, fake it till you make it. I don't care, because it is the reality of the situation, right? Next best way to do it, just kind of what I was saying previously, self-care. Physical and mental health through exercise, healthy eating, adequate sleep, getting and surrounding yourself with the right kind of people, not just maybe your party friends and ones who want to go out and get drunk and all that kind of stuff. Start to prioritize the stuff that's going to benefit you long term. Engage in activities that bring you joy and relaxation, such as hobbies, meditation, spending time in nature, go for a hike. Find new hobbies that maybe you'd always put off that you wanted to do, but because you were in that relationship, you couldn't. This is your time now, right? So dig into that, lean into that, find ways to kind of take care of yourself during this time. That's what's going to benefit you long term. Number 3, don't be scared to seek support, right? Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your therapist, and don't just talk to them about what's going on and bashing your ex. Talk to them about your feelings, right? The F word, feelings. That's what's going to help you move forward from this. Join a support group if you need to. Share about your experiences and gain insights from others who are going through similar situations. Look, do anything that it takes to get you to move forward. That is really what I want you to do more than anything. Don't be afraid or shy to do this. Staying stuck post one of these breakups is not going to benefit you long term, and it's just going to prolong you on the healing process as well too. I would also encourage you to set some goals. Focus on your personal growth by setting short-term and long-term goals, right? That's something that I've done. I started a new business. I started a podcast. I've done all these different things, but I had some goals about how I wanted to do things differently because I've now hit the reset button, and now I get to design my life in the way that I wanted to do it. Not that I couldn't do it necessarily with her, but this forced me to do it because I didn't really have a choice. So use this time to pursue new interests, career advancements, or educational opportunities. Go back to school. Get the master's that you always wanted. Do whatever it is that you need to do to help set yourself up for the future, right? Next one is really important as well, too. Limit contact. So reduce or eliminate contact with the ex-partner to create emotional distance. I know it's easier said than done. You've got custody situations, you've got some bills and some things that you still kind of have overlap to. Set those boundaries, but let's reduce or limit the contact to kind of what's only necessary. And let's make sure when you are in contact, let's pull back on those text messages that are just the flaming, fire-throwing ones as well, too. I did a lot of those early on. It's like, okay, that's not helping advance this situation any further. And even from time to time now, if I get pissed off about something, I'll write something out and I'll just set it down. And almost 99.999% of the time, I'll come back and just delete that. It doesn't need to be said. It doesn't help the conversation. You know, I also went through and removed all the reminders, photos, gifts, those things that can trigger the memories, right? The things that can make you sad that are going on the way. You can't reduce everything. You're in your car and something comes on. It's like, oh, we were in da-da-da, and that was our song. You know, that stuff happens. And it's okay to feel sad when that stuff happens. But let's maybe try to make your life a little more manageable by not having 100 pictures at your house and all the gifts and everything that she had bought you. And, you know, take the calendar reminders out of your phone and start to make it a little bit easier to kind of move past these things. Last two things on the list. It's okay to reflect on the relationship, right? I'm sure there were some good parts at some point in time in this. Let's learn from that. Let's learn what didn't work and what did work, and let's carry that forward and hopefully improve on that. Use these insights to develop healthier relationships and healthier patterns for the future, right? That is really important. You did whatever happened here, do the debrief on it, look back on it, learn, think on it, and now let's think strategically in the future. How can I prevent from repeating that same exact behavior so you can set yourself up for success? And last but not least, stay positive, right? Stay positive. Maintain a positive outlook on life and on future relationships. I have gone on, good God, I don't know how many dates, and I'm thinking one person specifically in particular, and she's a very nice girl, but it's like, it was just a bash session every time we hung out on the ex-husband and the divorce and his attorney and da-da-da-da-da. And it was like, holy jeez, like, I get it. You didn't like him. I understand. And it's been 3 years and still going on the divorce. Like, I mean, I'm a potential prospect, you know, dating partner sitting across from you, and I'm just like, yay. Like, I think it's super healthy to just stay positive. Whatever happened. That's in the past. I want to stay positive about a future potential relationship. I want to surround myself with positive people and influences and stop dwelling on any negative thoughts that have kind of happened. Like I said, what's happened has happened. Hopefully you've learned from some of that and you don't want to repeat that or try not to repeat it going forward. But stay positive. Not everybody's going to be like your ex. Now let's just hope that you can improve your picker next time around so we can land on and hopefully the right person, if you will. So anyways, hope you got something out of it. Like I always said, I weave into my personal stuff into this, where a lot of this come from. And this is one that I've been thinking about for quite some time. So if you're going through a breakup, you're about to start a breakup, you just gotten broken up with, send this episode to a friend who you think may be kind of stuck in something, and maybe this could be a helpful tool to kind of get them going on a new path, or maybe it's a way to introduce a conversation to them around this topic as well, too. So, good stuff. Hope you got something out of it. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Until next time, thank you very much.